I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, but obviously, last week anyway, because I had to work outside of YouTube. But democracy's lost on Thanksgiving. Experts imagine America in a year. If Trump cheats to win the 2024 election, if Trump cheats again in 2024, it'll be a dark Thanksgiving indeed. Obviously, obviously basically Trump along with us will be watching democracy burn because that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to burn down our democracy. Trump and his sycophants and acolytes are publicly planning to make him America's first de facto dictator, which will mean the end of the country's democracy. If we There's supposed to be an Agenda 47 plan, which should terrify you if you actually read into this. But the plans are detailed in such documents and organizations such as Agent 47, our Agenda 47, Project 2025, and the Red Caesar scenario, which I don't know what the Red Caesar scenario, at least I have to look that up. Now, journalists, pundits, the mainstream political class, other experts, and everyday Americans who follow politics and current events closely assume that the average member of the public does so as well. But there are decades of research by political scientists and other experts, however, that shows that this is not to be the case. In reality, most Americans are disengaged from politics. They lack a sophisticated understanding of political matters, and they are imaginistic and emotional, and they have a difficult time retaining and understanding complex information, and they do not pay close attention to elections until they decide to vote. And more generally, they are civilly illiterate. Now, more than half of the American public reads, half of the American public reads below a sixth grade level. Basically, Trump sycophants haven't read at the Trump sycophants. On the other hand, they read at a third grade level. In all, the average voter also makes political decisions based on calculations and concerns that mainstream professional politics watchers, especially Democrats and progressives, they would find it irrational. The 2024 election is less than a year away, and at this point, Trump is either tied with or he's leading Biden in the polls. But Trump is also ahead of Biden in key battleground states as well. And given the joke of the Electoral College, the voter nullification and voter suppression, gerrymandering, and other structural failings in American democracy, there's a very real and growing problem that Donald Trump will return to being squatter in 2025, and hopefully he won't. But the sum effect is that these discussions and warnings about America's democracy crisis and fascism are often ignored, or they are filtered out by large portions of the public as being more partisan bickering and politics as usual. Now, intervening against the dangerous tendency requires making the stakes and the implications of Trump's return to squatting and the end of American democracy very clear. And it's very direct and very real for the average person. The mainstream news media and political class have largely failed in reporting on this task. And I'm one of only a few people that actually reports on this constantly. Now, to that point, this may be the very last Thanksgiving where the American people will live in a democracy, however flawed and alien it may be, where their basic constitutional and other civil rights are relatively secure. But in an attempt to reflect on the meaning of this Thanksgiving, of the Thanksgiving in a time of such great troubles, and what that holiday will mean, and what they will be doing, and when and if dictator Trump takes power next year in 2024 and beyond, we had reached out to a range of experts who have spoken with previously for any conversation series here. Now, Bryn Tannehill had wrote a book called American Fascism and How the GOP is Subverting Democracy. Basically, Bryn said they're thankful for their loving family, and the world may be on the verge of burning down, but at least we have each other. And thanks to Bryn and his wife's Canadian citizenship, they will be spending Thanksgiving in the years following a Trump is re-election. In Canada, on the second Monday of October, I suppose we'll be thankful that we got out, because Republicans at both the state and federal level are making it clear that their goal is a future with every trans person either in the closet or detransitioned. And you can't change somebody with that. If Trump goes down, the status quo holds for another 4 years. Now we'll see if the GOP continues to be just as dedicated to eradicating transgenderism as it is in 2028. Now, based on the core characteristics of fascism, my guess will be yes. Now, for the foreseeable future, every general election will be a referendum on whether we should have meaningful elections ever again. Trump wants to get rid of those meaningful elections. Rick Wilson is the co-founder of the Lincoln Project, and he's a former leading Republican strategist and author of 2 books, Everything Trump Touches Dies and Running Against the Devil, a plot to save America from Trump and Democrats from themselves. Now, this past Thanksgiving, Rick Wilson said he was deeply thankful to see both of his children happy, successful, and married to loving, smart, supportive spouses. Now basically we can see that the Wilson family is a handful. Now, basically, he said he's grateful for his beautiful and brilliant fiancée Renee and the energy and joy she brings to his life every day. Now, if Trump cheats again in 2024, it'll be a dark Thanksgiving indeed, like millions of Americans. Basically, people will be contemplating on how best to protect their family from the up and coming authoritarianism that Trump and his people have promised. As someone Trump ordered Bill Barr to investigate back in 2020, I'm likely on their list. It almost seems absurd to type those words, but it's important to plan for the worst. Now, if Trump loses in 2024, everybody will raise a glass or shovel that Thanksgiving to every damn American who stayed in the fight until the end. And once he's gone, I'll keep giving groups and parties advice on keeping the lights of democracy and liberty on in a world where even if Trump is off the stage, authoritarianism and extremism still has a foothold. Now, aside from that, I hope I'll be watching people have their kids traveling, writing more books, and flying and restoring antique planes, which is what Rick Wilson loves to do. Stephen Beschloss is a journalist and author of several books, including The Gunman and His Mother, and his website is America, America. Now, I feel fortunate that Joe Biden is our president, and he's a fierce advocate for democracy. But in another time, that would be the most obvious expectation. Now, Donald Trump and his fascist enablers have made it necessary to be clear who's committed to American values like equality, diversity, and justice, and who's ready to toss it all away. Now, over the next year leading up to the 2024 election, I expect Biden will further ramp up the pro-democracy agenda and messaging. Now, this includes continuing to push back against the GOP role in stripping away women's reproductive freedom, and ignoring the will of the people, and what we've learned is a powerful motivator to get people to the polls. Biden won in 2020 by over 7 million votes with the largest turnout, 66% in half a century. Now we anticipate and surely hope that in 2024 it will generate the same passionate engagement, if not surpass it. And this bodes well for Democrats, even though the various third-party candidates are a reason to worry that they could tip the outcome in Trump's favor. Now, the idea that a majority or sufficient plurality would choose to usher in an autocratic government with no mission beyond, enabling Trump to seek vengeance against his enemies, and it remains improbable. Now, if I'm right, next Thanksgiving will be a cause for great celebration, but if I'm wrong, Thanksgiving of next year will look more like a fucking funeral and the demise of the American Democratic Project than a time to give thanks. Now, Nathan Powell is a graphic novelist and the first cartoonist to win the National Book Award. Now, Nathan Powell has also won 4 Eisner Awards, which I'm not sure what an Eisner Award is. His forthcoming graphic novel, Fall Through, will be released in February of 2024, followed by a comic adaptation of James Loewen's influential Lies My Teacher Told Me back in June. Now, the stakes of everything at the ongoing risk always illuminates my relative safety, health, comfort, choice, voice, and the people with whom I share my life with. Now, I'm deeply thankful for the ability to be safely with my friends and members of my creative communities again after 3.5 years of working our way out of the deepest depths of social isolation. Now, we have so much gratitude for the continuing privilege of making ends meet by doing what I have wanted to do since I was 11 years old, and for people's faith and support in my strange and emotional work in an often undervalued medium. We're thankful for the strangers throughout much of my local community who show basic humanity and decency. Now, in my area where I live at Maryville, Indiana, it's not really decent anyway. There's constant, crimes here. Now, if Trump cheats to win again in 2024, we will all spend a lot of time focused on just how eagerly people have memory hold much of the last 9 years. In fact, there's an entire book built on counteracting that urge in real time. Fragmented senses of continuity and context have been powerful conditions to allow the multiple ongoing crises and inhumanities that we witness and experience every day. I'll be doing what I was doing for Thanksgiving every year since 2016, acknowledging the ongoing horror and radically deepened stakes, weeping, swearing, remembering, and then turning my phone off to focus on gratitude and love for the day. and surrounded by a handful of people whose very right to exist in peace has hypothetically been destroyed. But Thanksgiving is some people's very favorite holiday, along with Christmas, and I find it very moving to observe the day with all the mess cut out on my own terms. I will not let fascists take away that observance of humanity and that interconnectedness. Now, if Trump loses, which we hope he does, in this best-case scenario, which I still in fact feel is more likely, I would do exactly the same thing as if the fascists had won. There will be mass violence, fear, paranoia, and resentment to different degrees in either outcome. But we are a decade into a massive collective human struggle for the survival of multiracial democracy itself, and this era is only a chapter of the last century's fight against white supremacy and fascism. And this will be the rest of our lifetimes, and everyone needs to understand that fucking fact. At the same time, allow yourself time and space for a quiet, for sacredness, for love and human connection. Do not relinquish these under any conditions whatsoever. Now, it's hard to really come up with a bundle of things to be thankful for, given the state of the country and its politics. Now, I'm grateful that Glenn Youngkin and Virginia Republicans rejected him. They were rejected by the voters in that state, and that Pennsylvania chose a good justice for its Supreme Court, and that Ohio rejected the disgraceful and dishonest Republican effort to impose draconian restrictions on abortion, and that Kentucky chose to re-elect its superb governor. I'm grateful that we do not have a government shutdown over the holidays, but our situation otherwise is pretty dire. Now, if Trump wins, I will spend my Thanksgiving talking to family about whether we should leave the country and where we should go. And that sadly is not an exaggeration. He has made it clear what he will do and turn America into a fascist hellscape. If we decided to stay, I would have to think through how to fight back to keep some progress of our decency and democracy. Now, if Trump loses, I will be very thankful. But if Republicans gain back the Senate, I will not be very hopeful that the next 4 years will provide the opportunities that we need to tackle the big problems that we're going to face ahead. Now, like I said, but if Trump, if people said, if Trump wins in 2024, we believe that a second Trump squatting will irreparably damage our democracy because he destroyed it in 4 years, and he will destroy more of it if he gets back in. But what would such an America look like and feel like? I don't know, and no one does until we see it. In the most accurate definition of the world, the U.S. is exceptional. And that we are the only exception in world history. There is no other multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, including freedom from religion, diverse, tolerant republic, democracy hybrid in which the people directly participate in government representation and commerce, and is also both the most powerful military and the largest economy by GDP in world history. Now, we are, for the most part, on our own and figuring out how to make this American experiment work with the least amount of combustibility as possible. Our progress over the last 247 years since our founding has never moved linearly. Now, while we are in a more equitable society today, much more work is needed, and it will be accompanied by struggle. We have it in our power to ensure that we will never have to answer the question of what if Trump is reelected, because we don't want him to be. Now, remember, there is a will of the people, and it is one of the tenets that renders us exceptional, albeit imperfect. Now, I believe our alliance will be victorious, electorally repudiating maggots. However, it will not cure all our civic ills. Now, apologies for tempering good news, but a defeat is the start, and not the end of helping others leave maggot, which my work focuses on along with everybody else, and equipping our nation to go on the nonviolent offensive against whatever follows the maggot base. Maggot is the latest, but not the last embodiment of politically traumatic mythologies designed to make millions panicked and desperate over an increasingly diversified America and an increasingly engaged youth. Now let's work together to ensure the highest voter turnout in our fucking history. All of us are doing a fucking little, and it will, all of us doing a fucking little will make good trouble in history. Now that's basically about it there. And I agree, because we do not want Trump winning in 2024. But if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the about section of YouTube. And for just a little few bucks, a video or a monthly donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.